Hello, comic fans. Here's Earl Grey with my top 10 of my favorite older books that I read or reread the last year, 2023. If you follow my channel, you may have seen the short video about our visit to Brussels. One thing I did in preparation for that trip was to read Brüssel by Schouten and Peters once again. I find it interesting that this book is still not translated into English, or at least not republished recently, like a lot of the other obscure cities books. Brüssel is actually a very important story to understand the importance of architecture in Schouten's comics. The real Brussels suffers in many ways of bad architecture, or rather bad city planning. The frustration about these problems in his home city was obviously a big motivation for Schouten to create his alternative universe of the obscure cities. On rank 9, there's an old classic by 2000 AD. 2000 AD was a lot on my mind and on my reading pile this comic year. In case of Hello Jones, I grabbed the new recolored version in German and put it all together with the corresponding 2000 AD magazines in a self-built slipcase. Hello Jones is easily one of the best stories Alan Moore ever wrote, and it's probably the comic Ian Gibson of late is best known for. On 8, there's a Corto Maltese comic. It's not the only comic by Hugo Pratt that I've read this year, but it seems that it was the only Corto, for real. Hard to believe, usually I read at least The Ballad of the Salty Sea once a year. Anyhow, Under the Sign of the Capricorn, or however the English title goes, is maybe not my favorite Corto comic, but it belongs to the real good ones. 7 is House of Penance, drawn by Ian Bertram, the same artist who drew Little Bird, and it's easy to recognize his style. And like in Little Bird, it's a not-so-little wonder how this far-out, quite abstract style is able to convey a complex and emotional story about Lady Winchester and her so-called Winchester House, which is a real thing, as you probably know. A big building full of blind alleys or doors that lead nowhere. If this was just the folly of a rich lady or her way to deal with the guilt she felt, it's unclear. But the comic takes a distinct standpoint for sure, and the title of the comic, House of Penance, should give you a lead. Well, here in Germany, there's quite a bit of a mind management craziness going on, because we finally got a German translation of mind management. It's still a small print run by a very small publisher, but anyhow, at least the ones in our little German comic tube bubble, who are in the know, have been excited, and rightfully so, because mind management is one of the cleverest, most intelligent and intriguing comics ever, in my opinion. And to join the fun, I reread my English volumes 1 to 6, but now I have to be careful not to spoil anyone, because it will take a time until the whole story is available in its entirety in German. On rank 5 is one of the most brutal, hard-boiled, uncompromising post-apocalyptic comics ever. Walking Dead is kindergarten, really, compared to Hombre. Don't be fooled by the naked or half-naked ladies on the covers. This book is almost not about cheesecake, but about unfiltered social Darwinism in a world in which only the strongest and the most ruthless survive. Our title character is as far from a shining hero as you could possibly imagine, but he's still one of the relatively good ones, just because he denies to eat human flesh. This kind of story actually should have been drawn with blood and razor knife. José Ortiz's art is almost too beautiful for the content, somewhere between José Bernet and Eleutheri Serpieri. Well, I said almost, and I don't complain. On 4 is not a comic, not even a bunch of comics, but actually a whole project of mine, to dive deep into and explore the comic worlds by Hergé. I bought this beautiful box with all the Tintin albums, or Tintin albums, in hardcover. As a kid, Tintin never had interested me too much. As a father, I almost got Tintin when I read it with my kids. But now, as an old man, I really come to appreciate the quality, the fun and excitement, the precision, the love for the detail in these comics. So yeah, my travels into Tintin land are far from over. In fact, they've just begun. Another one of these projects in capital letters is Schwermetall, the German heavy metal, aka Metall Hurlant. It's actually one of my origin stories how I became the comic fan of today. That's when I bought a stack of Schwermetall as a teenager, which turned my world upside down, until the very day. So yeah, I've read a lot of these magazines this year and I completed my collection, which means I now have all of the German issues that came out between 1980 and 1999. On rank 2 is a small step for mankind, but a huge one for me as a comic collector. Finally, I got my fingers on two of the most rare books by José Muñoz and Sampaio, at least in the German version. Joe's Bar and Moses Man, der Boxer. José Muñoz is my favorite comic artist, along with Gregor Rosinski. So it bugged me quite a bit that I could not get these two books nowhere, but now I have them and, well, yeah, I'm a happy collector and reader as well, because the stories add nicely to the Alex Sinner cosmos. But still, the rank 1 belongs to Jacques Tardy. Did I say just some seconds ago that Muñoz and Rosinski are my favorite artists? Probably I should expand my comic Olymp to a trio. Muñoz, Rosinski, Tardy. My very private, subjective, unholy trinity. But back to these comics by Tardy at hand. It was the war of the trenches, and goddamn this war. These are the German editions, of course, but you can get them in English through Fantagraphics as well. And boy, if you ever doubted the power of comics, what comics are able to do in conveying stories, history, drama, emotion, truth, desperation, rage, you have to read these comics. They are very well structured, almost old-fashioned, the good old Tardy way, you might say, but they are bursting with desperation, rage, and fear of the animal that is man. So outrageously, scandalously, appallingly timely that it makes me shiver. These comics should be shoved deep into the throats of all the nationalists wherever they are and whatever nation they are worshipping. Sorry about the drama. Not sorry. Read more Tardy, read more comics. Until next Saturday, when I actually talk about new editions from 2023. Thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye.